This video is to explain a little bit of background about a video that's appeared from a Dutch documentary team that was in South Africa a few months back. Now, the video is called The Plot Against South Africa. So I think it's necessary to describe my role in this because they filmed at my site. So let me tell you what I know about this. What happened was I held a meet and greet at Opitplas in Pretoria. I believe it was the 10th of May, 2025. And we had 300 to 500 people show up. Now, I didn't authorize or ask anybody from the media to show up, but word got out. CBS News was there. Newsroom Africa, I think, was there. I can't confirm. A couple other South African media outlets were there to cover my presentation, and also a Dutch film crew. They did come up to me at the beginning of this and ask if they could film. I said, as long as people don't object to you talking to them, I have no problem with that. You can film me if you like. They said, can we interview you afterwards? Well, what they didn't know, and the rest of the crowd didn't know, is that I had interviews scheduled with Thea van Straten, the first refugee interview ever conducted about South African refugees. That was scheduled in Pretoria East, and I had to leave there. Many of my meet and greets this year went for as long as 5 to 7 hours answering people's questions. Now, I've been doing meet and greets forever. It's interesting that in this video, the documentary production doesn't bother to mention my name, doesn't mention my bona fides, doesn't mention who I am. They just call me an influencer. That's obviously an attempt to minimize who I am, my bona fides, and my background. This is what the media do all the time, instead of telling you who they're actually putting in here. In this video, The Plot Against South Africa, it's absolutely comical. This guy was like a leopard sitting around waiting to pounce on people. He went to the airport, tried to pounce on them and harass them at the airport, and he asked me questions. Now, you'll notice that in this documentary, unless I missed it, I'm not asked any questions. He's simply filming where I'm at. Now, I'm not put in a bad light, and I'm not complaining about that. So this is obviously not bitter grapes or sour grapes, bitter wine, sour grapes. I'm not complaining about that. What I am going to tell you is that this is a bogus documentary because the whole thing is full of information that was incorrect when it was gathered several months ago and is even less correct today. The record has been set straight many, many, many times. But this film crew, and let me talk about my interaction. After they ambushed me at my event, when I came from the Boer Mark that morning to go there, I showed up. They ambushed me at that event and asked if they could stay. And I said, okay, fine. I'm not going to kick you out. It's a public restaurant. As long as people say you can film, it's okay. You can film me. When they ambushed me, as I had to leave because it went on for a bit, I said, folks, I got to go. They caught me going out because I did say I would interview with them, so I stopped to talk to them. This guy kept asking me very pointed questions because it was pretty obvious that he didn't want the truth. He wanted to support his racist, leftist, Dutch liberal narrative. And that's what I'll call it. Because the questions were, what gives President Trump the right to take farmers? And I said, first off, and I corrected him on the spot, notice he doesn't say retired colonel, intelligence analyst, journalist, independent media consultant. Doesn't tell you any of that about me in the documentary. And you can have the link. It's below this. You can go watch it if you want. He just calls me an influencer. And then when he asked me, what gives President Trump the right? And I told him from my position of knowledge and informed information. I said, well, the Immigration Nationality Act of 1980. But before that, he said white farmers. I said, first off, the program isn't for farmers. Go look at the embassy website. It's not for farmers. Since February 10th, it is stated for racial minorities. And it's not a program for farmers. He takes the video and tries to give you the impression that this is a scam effort for people to get out of South Africa. And also misleads people and lies. He blatantly lies, saying that President Trump has shut down the border to people from war zones. That's untrue. That's factually untrue. I show the statistics. The numbers are very low, but Afghans and Rwandans and Ethiopians and others have come into this country since Trump shut the floodgates down. They're having a small number of people come in. So this guy has a problem with the facts, okay? And he didn't like my answer, and he just kept trying to pin me down. The problem is that these clowns can't pin me down because I've dealt with them for decades. You're not going to get me to say something that's untrue that fits your narrative, so I get along, go along. As a consequence, much like the CNN documentary, the bogus documentary by Donnie O'Sullivan called Misinformation, White Genocide, that bogus documentary in which they flew me down there to interview me with no intention of ever putting me in the interview. They just cut me out, which I expected, no problem. Same here. He didn't take any of the questions. He asked me questions. It was a complete waste of time because I wouldn't tell him what he wanted to hear. I wouldn't lie on camera, and I won't do that. What gives Trump the authority? The Immigration Nationality Act of 1980. He has the authority as president. Secretary of State has it. Congress has it. State Department has it. It's his authority to do it, and he did it. You don't like that? Then talk to Trump. ask him his motivations. But also you can report the truth. In that group that were at the airport, when he was at the airport, were coloreds. Did he mention coloreds? No, didn't do that. Has he bothered to update his documentary since then? It was filmed months ago, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 7 months later, they publish it. And the information was already stale when they filmed it, let alone when they published it. He talks about 8,000 people wrote to the government. Really, 8,000. I personally have had more than 8,000 people contact me, and I'm just some independent journalist. Give me a break. Anyway, I just felt it was necessary to explain to people about this documentary. They ambushed me at my Opie Plus meet and greet. I let them film. They interviewed people with their consent. I got no problem with that. I wasn't put in a bad light. That's what I'm here to complain about, but I'm here to set the record straight. They didn't want to hear the truth. Just like Donnie O'Sullivan, when I gave him the facts and told him that there were coloreds and Indians who had come over and that they're here and that also Afghans had come over, because I was interviewed by O'Sullivan in July, and I knew that there were Afghans that arrived in the Las Vegas area under this refugee program. But he didn't want to hear that. It doesn't fit his white supremacy narrative. These people are disgusting and shameful, including this Dutch film crew. The Netherlands has horribly left its place with people who are divorced from reality and truth. They're so entrenched and soaked in white liberal guilt over something they never did, so they're perpetuating racial discrimination against whites today because they feel guilt or something. Shame on this guy. Shame on him. You notice everything I said was cut out because none of it fit his narrative. Just like Donnie O'Sullivan. Wind up on the cutting room floor. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. Because real people who make real decisions that affect geopolitics listen to my analysis and ask me questions and ask for my advice. So these fake media journalists can make all the bogus propaganda they want. This entire thing is slanted. The entire thing is slanted. The program was never for farmers. Because you idiots listen to a few words that Trump says or a tweet that he talks about, that's how you form your opinion? That's the depth of your intellectual capacity to analyze events and information? No, it isn't what Trump says, it's what he does. And what he does is they have created a program for people to come over, and whites, Indians, and coloreds, including whites who are English-speaking South Africans, and most of them are not even farmers. It was never a program for farmers. It's for people suffering unjust racial persecution, and that didn't fit his narrative, because apparently white people can't be victims of racial persecution. Having been one, I can attest it can be done. Any human can be racially persecuted against by others, even people who look like them. Shame on this guy. Shame on this documentary. It's just fake news. And pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. They spent thousands of dollars to fly these clowns to South Africa to film a documentary about this, to lie instead of telling the truth. Why? I guess because people like to click on it. I don't know. Why can't you tell the truth? Why can't you say that the program was never for farmers and it's not for Afrikaners? The only time he clipped me talking was when the lady asked me a question about whether she qualified, and I said, "You're an Afrikaner." Anyway, it's sad. It's tragic. This is what passes for journalism. This is supposed to be a documentary. That's 2 fake news documentaries. Now I wait to see what happens with the CakeNet documentary that I'm part of and see how that's presented. And actually, the comments I made, I believe, in the Donnie O'Sullivan interview and in the interview with the Dutch film crew who caught me as I'm leaving the venue at Opiplas and people were walking by, I think my comments there were pretty much on point. And it's a shame they didn't appear on film. Whereas I felt a little uncomfortable in the conversation with Brianne van Heerden because the noise in the background in the restaurant we're at, and it was distracting me. But I did my best to answer the questions. We'll see how I come out in that interview when CakeNet releases its documentary. So 3 documentaries I've been involved in this year as a person being interviewed and a subject matter expert answering questions. 2, I wound up on the cutting room floor because I would not bow to fake news and lie. I'm not going to lie. First off, you're not paying me. I wouldn't lie if you paid me anyway. But you want me to lie? What do you want me to say? That Trump did something wrong? No. First off, you need to deal with the facts. Trump didn't shut the door down to the whole world. He shut the door down across the world, and then he opened it back up, and a small number of people from these other countries came in. But there is an agenda by these people. And you need to decide for yourself what the truth is. If you don't believe me, go to the U.S. Embassy website and look at it, see who qualifies. Talk to people who are refugees. Did other people come over the boat with you? Yeah. There were coloreds. There were Indians. Yeah. There were English-speaking South Africans. Yeah. Are you a farmer? No, I'm not a farmer. Well, did anything happen to you? Yeah. Well, let's just check out the website. Actually do some real research instead of the nonsense we see each and every day. Well, folks, thanks a lot. Cheers.